My ex used my money to impress another guy, so I let her think I was broke until the IRS came, knocking on her door. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and if there's one thing I've always believed in, it's that hard work can fix almost anything. I didn't come for money, just a small apartment, a father who worked night shifts, and a mother who stretched every dollar until it tore. I promised myself I'd never let life catch me unprepared like it did them. So I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3. Days at a tech firm. Nights freelancing for clients who thought I was just another faceless name behind a screen. Those years were brutal. Sleep came in 3-hour bursts, and my meals were whatever I could microwave between deadlines. But every time exhaustion threatened to break me, Melissa would remind me why I was doing it. She'd smile and say, "You're my ambitious man." Tracing her fingers over the spreadsheet I'd built to track savings, she made the grind feel romantic, like we were building something together. Our own little empire, brick by brick. I still remember the night we sat on my balcony, cheap wine in hand, city lights flickering below us. I told her I wanted to buy a house by 30, not a mansion, just something that felt earned. She leaned against me, whispered, "You'll get there. You always do." That moment felt real. Her belief in me was the only thing stronger than my self-doubt. Looking back now, that same faith feels like the cruelest part of it all, because I didn't realize how easily belief could be faked. I thought I was saving for us. I thought every extra hour, every side gig, every skipped dinner out was an investment in our future. I didn't know that the dream I was building was about to become someone else's playground at first. Melissa's spending habits seemed harmless, just little indulgences here and there. A new handbag because it was on sale, a weekend brunch with her coworkers, a spontaneous spa day. I told myself she deserved it. She'd been patient while I buried myself in work, so maybe she needed a little luxury. But over time, those little things started to look like a lifestyle I couldn't keep up with. One night, after a long week, I suggested cooking at home instead of eating out. She frowned and said, "You work so hard. Why are you acting broke?" The words stung more than I expected. I laughed it off, told her I was just trying to be smart with money. But the way she rolled her eyes, that quiet, disappointed look, stayed with me long after. It was like she saw my discipline not as responsibility, but as a flaw. The next few weeks became a balancing act. I'd buy her expensive dinners after landing freelance clients, just to see her smile again. I told myself it wasn't about money, it was about keeping us happy. But deep down, I knew I was rewarding behavior that drained me. She started joking with her friends that I was Mr. Spreadsheet, the guy who tracked every expense. They'd laugh and I'd force a smile, pretending it didn't bother me. The truth is, I started questioning myself. Maybe I was too rigid. Maybe love required spending, not saving. I didn't realize she was slowly shifting the foundation of our relationship, from partnership to performance. And the more I tried to prove my worth through generosity, the more invisible I felt. Because somewhere between the dinners, gifts, and "you're so lucky to have me," smiles, I started realizing that the woman I was building a future with didn't actually want the same kind of future at all. It started, innocently enough, one of those late-night conversations where love and ambition blurred together. Melissa had just finished scrolling through a real estate app, sighing over beautiful homes we couldn't afford yet. "You know," she said, tracing her finger over a photo of a 2-story house with a wraparound porch, "if we actually combined our savings, we could make this happen faster." I hesitated. My money was sitting safely in a high-yield savings account under my name, the product of years of sleepless nights and takeout dinners. But Melissa made it sound romantic. She called it our shared future fund. She said, "What's the point of being a team if we're saving separately?" It felt logical, even intimate. And when she mentioned she could open the account under her name because of her freelance tax advantages, I told myself it was just temporary. I still remember transferring that first large deposit, watching the balance on my screen drop like I'd just handed away a part of myself. She kissed me and said, "You won't regret this. We'll look back and laugh when we're living in that dream house." I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. In the weeks that followed, We'd sit together budgeting future plans, furniture ideas, mortgage goals, even kids' names. She'd rest her head on my shoulder and say, "You're the kind of man women dream about." And every time she said that, I'd double down, working harder, saving faster, trusting more completely. I never noticed how she started asking fewer questions. It's about our plans and more about her independence. "If anything ever happens," she'd say casually, "at least we both know I'll be fine." I laughed it off, not realizing that she meant it literally, because the money I thought was securing our future was slowly becoming her escape plan. It happened gradually, like someone dimming the lights one click at a time until I couldn't tell when the warmth disappeared. Melissa started pulling away, not in big arguments, but in the quiet ways that hurt more. Late night calls, she'd take in another room. Texts, she'd quickly swipe away when I walked by. Excuses about needing me time after work. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I was too focused on money, on stability, on a future she wasn't ready for. Then one Friday, she said she wanted to reconnect with herself and suggested we take a short break, just a week apart. I didn't fight it. I thought space might help. She packed a small suitcase, kissed my cheek like a stranger, and said, "Don't worry, I'll still check in." Days passed. The texts slowed, then stopped. I told myself she was just decompressing, but deep down, unease sat heavy in my gut. Out of habit, I checked the shared account one evening, something I hadn't done in weeks. My heart dropped. Large withdrawals. Thousands gone. Transfers labeled personal. I refreshed the page 3 times, hoping it was a mistake. It wasn't. When I called her, she sounded calm to calm. "Relax," she said. "I just moved some money around. You know I'm handling the taxes." My voice cracked when I asked, "Melissa, how much did you take?" She sighed like I was being dramatic. "God, you're obsessed with numbers. It's just money, babe. We'll make more." But I could hear noise in the background, laughter, music, and a man's voice asking, "Who's that?" She hung up before I could speak. That was the first night I realized the person I trusted most wasn't just slipping away. She was already gone, and the money I worked for my entire adult life might have gone with her. A week passed before I finally broke. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, every quiet moment filled with the sound of that man's voice echoing in my head. One night, I opened my laptop and decided to check everything. Every transaction, every statement, every trace of where the money went. The pattern hit me like a punch to the chest. Hotel reservations, fine dining, jewelry purchases, designer clothes. Thousands of dollars gone in weeks. At first, I told myself maybe she was buying gifts for us, maybe a surprise. But the hotel receipts had 2 guests listed. One of the restaurant bills included a name I didn't recognize, Daniel. I remember sitting there in the dark, staring at that word, until it blurred. The pieces started connecting. Her absences, the laughter on the phone, the sudden confidence. Melissa hadn't taken space to reconnect with herself. She'd taken my money to impress another man. I called her, shaking, trying to keep my voice steady. "Melissa." "Who's Daniel?" There was silence. Then, a low, amused laugh. "You're going through my bank records now?" "That's pathetic." My throat tightened. "You used our savings?" She sighed, unbothered. "Correction, my account, remember? You transferred it willingly." It was like she'd ripped the floor out from under me. Years of trust, erased with one smug sentence. I asked her if this was some kind of mistake, if she'd even planned to tell me. She said, "You should have known what you were signing up for. You can't build a future if you never live in the present." Then she hung up. That night, I sat alone at my desk, surrounded by empty coffee cups and screenshots of betrayal. I wasn't angry yet, just hollow, because it wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about realizing I'd built my dreams on someone else's stage, and I had just been cut from the show. 2 days later, I showed up at her apartment. I don't even remember the drive there, just my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. I wasn't looking for revenge. I just wanted to understand why. When she opened the door, she looked surprised, not guilty, just mildly inconvenienced, like I'd shown up to ruin her weekend plans. Wow, she said, crossing her arms. You really couldn't take a hint, huh? I forced a shaky smile. You emptied our account, Melissa. I deserve at least an explanation. She tilted her head, smirking. You mean my account? You put the money in my name, remember? That's on you. Behind her, I caught a glimpse of someone's jacket. His jacket hanging on the couch. That's when I realized Daniel wasn't some passing fling. He was living there. My chest burned. You used me, I said quietly. You used everything I built to impress someone else. She laughed, a short, sharp sound that felt like glass breaking. Oh, please. You think working yourself to death makes you noble? You were saving for a life that was never going to happen. Daniel knows how to actually enjoy life. Something in me cracked. Not rage, something colder. I looked around that apartment, the fancy decor, the perfume that wasn't hers, the hollow echo of what used to be home. Enjoy it while it lasts, I whispered. Because one day, it all catches up. She rolled her eyes. You won't do anything. You never do. She was right that night. I didn't. I walked out without slamming the door, without yelling, without giving her the satisfaction of seeing me break. But when I got home, I did break. I sat on the floor of my empty apartment, staring at the spot where my savings once were, and realized I wasn't just broke. I was empty. And that emptiness was the first spark of something far more dangerous than anger. After that night, I stopped existing for a while. My days blurred together. Wake up, stare at the ceiling, scroll through old messages I should have deleted. I didn't eat much, didn't talk to anyone. It felt like every hour was proof that I'd lost not just my savings, but my sense of purpose. But grief has a strange way of burning itself out, and once the pain dulled, something colder took its place. Clarity. One evening, I sat at my desk, the same one where I used to budget our future, and pulled out a folder I hadn't touched in months. Tax documents, bank statements, transfer receipts. Every single transaction was tied to my income. Every deposit came from my accounts. She'd made the mistake of thinking I was just another lovesick fool. But if there's one thing I knew better than love, it was numbers. I started gathering everything. Screenshots, digital trails, timestamps. Quietly, methodically. Then I reached out to an old friend, Jason, a finance consultant I'd helped years ago with a side project. He owed me a favor. When I told him the situation, he didn't laugh or pity me. He just said, "Send me everything," within days. He found something interesting. Melissa had been claiming my money as her freelance. Earnings on her tax filings, inflating her income to qualify for luxury perks and credits. You realize, Jason said, that's technically tax fraud, right? That night I didn't feel rage. I felt peace. Because for the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was planning. I knew I couldn't get my money back directly, but I could make sure she felt the weight of what she'd done, not from me, but from the system she thought she was smarter than. The best part? She still thought I was broken and powerless, and I planned to keep it that way. I vanished from her world like a ghost. Blocked her on every platform, changed my number, even deleted old photos so I wouldn't be tempted to look back. Then I built a new narrative, one that I wanted her to hear. Through mutual friends, I let it slip that I'd lost everything, that I was drowning in debt after she took the money. I posted nothing but quiet, minimal updates. My small apartment, my hand-me-down car. Captions like "starting over isn't easy." It didn't take long for the story to reach her. Friends would text me, "Melissa was laughing about you last night. Apparently she'd started calling me Mr. Bankruptcy, saying she dodged a bullet." I let her believe every word. The illusion worked better than I imagined. While she was flaunting vacations and designer outfits online, I was quietly rebuilding. Using the last bit of savings from freelance clients, I registered a small LLC under a new name, completely separate from my old accounts. I poured everything into it. Late nights returned, but this time the grind felt different, fueled by purpose instead of love. Every invoice I sent, every deal I closed was like reclaiming a piece of myself she'd tried to take. Months passed. My broke persona kept her confident, careless. Her posts became more showy, her spending more erratic. I'd hear whispers that she and Daniel were living large, new cars, rented penthouses, endless parties. I knew it wouldn't last. Because Jason, my finance friend, had already reported her questionable filings anonymously to the IRS tip line. All I had to do was wait, and waiting was easier when she thought I had nothing left to lose. She had no idea that the quiet man she'd mocked for being cheap was about to watch her entire empire crumble, not with noise, but with silence. 6 months passed before I heard her name again. I'd nearly forgotten what her voice sounded like until it appeared one morning on my caller ID for a second. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Her tone was soft, almost rehearsed. "Hey, it's been a while. I just wanted to check in. How have you been?" I kept my voice flat. "Surviving." She gave a nervous laugh. "I saw your posts. I'm sorry things got rough for you." I didn't mean for it to end like that. I wanted to ask if rough was her word for financial devastation, but I bit my tongue. "Yeah," I said. "Things got tight. I had to file some paperwork with the IRS about our joint account. They needed to confirm which income was mine." It was a long pause. I could almost hear her swallow. "The IRS," she repeated. "Why would they owe?" "Just routine stuff," I interrupted casually. "You know, since the account was under your name, they'll probably reach out to confirm the transfers." "Nothing to worry about." Her voice tightened. "Right? Yeah, sure." When the call ended, I sat there in silence, heart pounding not from fear but anticipation. Jason had told me her name had likely landed in a review queue weeks ago. The investigation process was slow, but once it started, it wouldn't stop until every dollar was accounted for. Over the next few days, I started getting small glimpses of fallout. A mutual friend mentioned Melissa's boyfriend had been complaining online about money problems. Another said Melissa had gone off-grid, deleting posts and making her accounts private. The storm hadn't hit yet, but the sky was darkening, and for the first time in months, I wasn't the one bracing for impact. I was the one who'd brought the thunder. It happened on an ordinary Thursday morning. I was at my desk finishing a client project when my phone buzzed with a text from a mutual friend. "Dude, did you hear about Melissa?" I hadn't, and I wasn't supposed to care. But curiosity got the better of me. I scrolled through social media and saw it, her perfect little world starting to crumble. Her influencer boyfriend had posted a cryptic story. "Some people bring nothing but trouble. Lesson learned." 2 hours later, Jason called. His voice carried a hint of satisfaction. "It's happening," he said. "IRS opened an audit on her. They're reviewing her freelance income claims, the ones built on your transfers." My pulse spiked, not from guilt, but from the sheer weight of irony. She'd spent my money pretending to be rich. And now the government wanted to know where it all came from. Within days, the dominoes started falling. Her luxury posts vanished. Friends who used to gush over her success suddenly distanced themselves. Someone mentioned she'd been served papers, formal audit notice, possible fraud investigation. The same woman who once mocked me for being too cautious was now drowning in the consequences of her own arrogance. I didn't reach out. I didn't celebrate. I just watched from a distance as karma, patient and precise, did what I never could. Still, part of me felt that old ache, the memory of loving someone I couldn't save from herself. Then, late one night, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I let it ring, but the voicemail came through anyway, her voice trembling, panicked. "Please. They're saying I could lose everything. You have to tell them it was your money." "I can't." I stopped the message halfway through, because finally, she was the one begging for help, and I was the one who didn't owe her anything anymore. The next morning, her meltdown went viral. Screenshots of Melissa's luxury trips and designer hauls started circulating online, paired with angry comments about fake influencers and tax cheats. Someone even dug up an old post where she'd bragged about knowing how to play the system. Internet didn't need much else. They tore her apart. Her sponsorships vanished within days. And Daniel, the man she'd used my money to impress, released a public statement denying any involvement, calling her unstable and dishonest. It was poetic in the ugliest way. I didn't need revenge. She handed it to me herself, live for everyone to see. Watching her social empire collapse felt surreal. This woman who once acted untouchable was suddenly just another headline, her followers dropping by the thousands. Still, I didn't gloat. I just watched quietly as the chaos she created came full circle. She texted me again that week. They froze my accounts. I can't access anything, please. Help me explain. I stared at the message for a long time, thumb hovering over the reply button. But what was there to say? Every choice she'd made had led here. Every lie, every swipe of my debit card. Every mocking word about my cheapness. Instead of replying, I sent her a single message. You told me I'd never do anything. I didn't have to. I never heard from her again. Mutual friends said she left town, maybe moved in with family. I didn't care enough to confirm. For the first time in years, I felt the noise fade. My life wasn't glamorous or loud, but it was mine. No debts, no deception, no facade to keep up. And as I watched the final traces of her online persona disappear, I realized sometimes justice doesn't need anger. It just needs silence and patience, because silence, I learned, goes louder than any revenge ever could. Months passed, and the chaos around Melissa faded into background noise. My name never came up in the investigation. Jason had handled the paperwork perfectly. The IRS traced every dollar back to my legitimate income. I was clean. She wasn't, but by the time I heard the final update, that she'd settled for a massive fine and lost nearly everything, I didn't feel triumph. I just felt done. I'd rebuilt my life quietly, brick by brick. My small LLC had grown into a stable business, steady clients, predictable income. I learned to love simplicity again. Early mornings, black coffee, silence that didn't ache anymore. I even bought a tiny house outside the city. Not the dream home I'd once imagined with her, but something better, something earned honestly. Sometimes I still think about her. Not with anger, but with clarity. I wonder if she ever realized that her downfall didn't come from betrayal or revenge. It came from her own greed. All I did was step out of her way and let the truth do what it always does. One night, I stood on my porch watching the sunset, that same cheap wine in hand that we used to drink on my old balcony. I remembered her saying, "You'll get there. You always do." She was right. I did get there. Just not in the way she imagined. I didn't need to destroy her. She destroyed herself by underestimating the man she thought was weak, and maybe that's the real revenge. Walking away so quietly that the world assumes you lost, until they realize you were simply rebuilding in silence, because peace isn't found in proving people wrong. It's found in knowing you never needed their validation to begin with.